Hi everyone, Steve here, and here are just a couple of very quick comments about this assessment, Adaptation Watch. As the title would suggest, the purpose of this assessment is to really be watching, commentating, analysing the sort of the discourses of publicity and reception around an adaptation. Um, the adaptation has to come from the film, and it really has to sort of be external to what we're doing in the course. So if you are doing this assessment, it is absolutely essential that you're travelling up to the AFI Research Collection, which is in the Swanston Library. Now, um, what you need to do, it's an individual assessment, is you need to gather and collate evidence from a range of sources around the release of an adaptation. So you need to look at things like print, like reviews, broadcast, online reviews, trailers, interviews with the cast and crew, directors, maybe the source of adaptation, like the author being adapted was actually involved in the publicity around the film. Posters. What does the poster actually tell us about whether this is an adaptation and how is this an adaptation? Also, look at things like prizes, awards, merchandising, and really what you're wanting to do is begin a conversation with how a film is released and distributed and sort of initially contextualized and its relationship to the source of adaptation. Okay, so that's the important thing to look at. How is this an adaptation, and how is it being marketed as an adaptation to really lure and entice and interest maybe fans of the original source of adaptation? The real question of this assessment is how does it market and contextualize itself as adaptation, it being the film. So the emphasis here is placed on the critical and commercial context in which the adaptation is placed. So you also might want to look at things like box office and things like that if you're sort of making a claim around fans of the original source being enticed and lured into the adaptation. The purpose of this assessment is for you to recognise yourself as active producers rather than passive consumers of cultural meaning. And what I mean by that is you've really got to be looking at how you sort of analyse the publicity around a film. We've done a little bit over the course, but it's really up to you to take one of the films and really look at that, really analyze the publicity and talk to it quite intimately. And you really need to look at some things like publicity posters to do that. Now, there are rules for the assessment. You can only address films and readings from the course. You may not use text or films already addressed in your early assessments. Okay, so if you if you looked at Throne of Blood, for instance, you can't do that for this assessment. None of you were allowed to do Romeo plus Juliet for the earlier assessment, so maybe that would be an interesting one to look at. Now, the way you sort of submit this assessment, or how you want to, what form you want to submit it in, is really up to you. You can do it as an audio film. You could do it as a PowerPoint with images. You could do it as a traditional essay with images. You can do it however you like. Now that will sort of determine how long it goes for. Like if you're doing sort of an audio thing, obviously it's not going to go for 2,000 words, even though you may be reading 2,000 words. So it's really up to you what form you present it in. If you're not doing a traditional essay, I highly recommend that you talk to your tutor about what form you'll be doing it and how long it will be going for. If you were doing it as a sort of a PowerPoint audio presentation, you don't want it to go for 50 minutes or anything like that. Okay, observe the 10% rule. You can go under or over if you want, but the absolute maximum for this assessment is 2,000 words. And just finally, this assessment will be assessed according to your ability to identify different modes, ability to contextualize an adaptation with different modes. So really think about the modes and whether they are at work within within the release of this film, your evidence of topic description, your use of relevant concepts, your level of analysis, and your use of evidence. Okay, so what we don't want is for you just to be presenting a series of facts like here is the box office, here is the publicity posters. It's really about you assessing and analyzing that information. Okay, so think what you'll be using. You don't have to use everything you find, but think of the things that really form a good, strong argument for you. If you are doing this assessment, like I said, I strongly recommend you have a chat with your tutor or myself about what avenue you'll be taking with this. And the main point for this assessment is to have a whole bunch of fun because it is a really interesting way of thinking about adaptation beyond just on-screen representation. All right, leave it there. Look forward to seeing what you produce. Bye for now.